verbs. Ingrid?
Important.
No, important is an adjective. It's not a verb, right?
As soon as.
As soon as it's not a verb.
Go.
France?
You go.
France?
Go.
Go. Go is a subjunctive, right?
Verb.
Yes. What about the second one?
See.
See. Okay. Number 3?
Live.
Leave.
Leave. Okay. Number 4?
Be.
Be.
Yes. Not be in this case, right? Okay. As you can see, the subjunctive verb don't follow the rules that we normally follow when we are talking, for example, about the third person. Okay, for example, we normally say here sees. He sees a doctor, right? But when we use this form of verb, because this is a verb that has a different form, okay? So when we use this verb, we don't follow the same rules that we normally follow in a normal sentence, okay? And if you listen in the video, we have here this form that can be used with subjunctive verbs, okay? It, the verb to be, okay? And an adjective. For example, important, essential, crucial, and best, okay? So we can use adjective, and after that, we can use a subjunctive verb. We're going to see some other examples here. It says, subjunctive, the subjunctive move is the verb form used to explore a hypothetical situation, imaginary or unreal situation. Remember what kind of conditional is here? What kind of conditional do we have here? Do you remember the conditional sentences? What kind of conditional is this one? If I were you, or if I were the president, if I were rich, do you remember? No? The second conditional, right? We use the second conditional when we are talking about unreal, hypothetical, or imaginary situations. For example, if I were rich, I would travel around the world. As you can see, the verb here, the verb doesn't follow the way that we normally do, or we normally say or write. Okay, if we use the normally way, it would be if I was, in this case. Okay, si utilizáramos tu micrófono, por favor. Si utilizamos la forma normal, sería if I was you. But if the verb is subjunctive, we use were in the conditional sentence type 2. Okay, then we have to express wish, demand, or a suggestion to. Okay, we can use the subjunctive verb to express suggestions, wishes, or demand. Okay, for example, I demand he be present. Okay, as you can see, we use the base form of the verb. We don't conjugate the verb when we are using this form. Okay, so we are going to see when to use this kind of verb. Okay, for imaginary situations. For example, if I were rich, I would travel around the world. We have imaginary situations. We can use this also for suggestions. I recommend that he stay in a hotel. Okay, as you can see, we don't change the verb when we are talking about the third person. Or something that is important to do, okay? It is necessary that you try the shoes on before buying them. Okay, so we also can use the subjunctive verb when we are talking about something important to do. Okay? What about the rules? We have some rules that we need to follow when we use this subjunctive verb. For example, the subjunctive verb doesn't add an S in the third person singular. For example, it is advisable that she rest for a week, okay? So here I have a missing for a week. Then we have the tense can be in the past or in the present. So your sentence can be in the past or in the present, but the subjunctive verb stays the same, okay? For example, in the present we have here, I insist that she leave tomorrow. Okay, as you can see, my sentence is in the present and my verb is in the base form. And here, I insisted that she leave tomorrow. My sentence is in the past, but the verb is in the base form. Okay, so it doesn't matter if my sentence is in the past, in the present, future, but my verb needs to be in the base form. Okay? The next rule, it says, with expressions, it is crucial, essential, imperative, important, or necessary or vital. These expressions can be also used or can be also followed by the imperative form of the verb. Okay, pueden ser seguidas por la forma base o por la forma de imperativo. Por ejemplo, it is important that you study for your test. Okay, so this is the subjunctive verb. But we can say this, it is important for you to study for your test. Okay, también podríamos utilizar esta forma cuando decimos it's y un adjetivo. Okay, so these are some of the rules that you need to follow when you are using these subjunctive verbs. And we have exactly the same rules here in your book. Let's go to your book. Let me see. Here we have verbs in the subjunctive. It says, certain verbs and expressions are followed by the subjunctive. The subjunctive uses the simple or base form of the verb. Okay, for example, these verbs are almost always followed by the subjunctive. So we have demand, insist, propose, recommend, request, and suggest. So if you have these verbs in your sentence, almost always you need to use the subjunctive verb after the verbs. For example, Jim's brother suggested, we can use that or we can omit this word, suggested that he stop spending so much money. Okay, his daughter proposed he keep a list of weekly expenses. Okay, and the last one, Jim's wife recommended he talk with a financial counselor. Okay, so as you can see, we can use that or we can omit, but we need to use the subjunctive form of the verb after suggest, propose, and recommend. Okay, here we have some other expressions. It says, these expressions are frequently followed by the subjunctive, but they can also be followed by an infinitive. Okay, for example here, it is crucial, it is essential, the same sentences that we have in the PowerPoint, right? It is necessary that couples discuss financial problems openly. Or we can say it is necessary for couples to discuss financial problems openly. So as you can see, we can use to discuss or we can use discuss. Okay, both are correct. Okay, so I want to know if you have any questions about this form of the verb, subjunctive verbs that we are doing here. Any questions? Okay, so we're going to practice a little bit this form of the verb. Here we have a little quiz, and I want you to help me to complete it. Okay, we have only 3 questions here. So number 1, it says, use the subjunctive. It is important that they work before I leave. So what do you think is the correct form of the verb in this sentence?
Okay.
Finish.
Finish.
A, right? Okay, very good. So remember that we use the base form. We don't need to change the verb, right? Here, it is important that she, the problem.
Solve.
Solve.
Solve
V.
the problem, right? Very easy. The last one, I recommend that he
Not.
not. We don't need an auxiliary verb when we are talking about the subjunctive verbs, right? Very good. Okay, so this is the way in which we are going to make our recommendations for this lesson. Okay, so it says, use verbs followed by the subjunctive instead of should or must. Remember that we learned in the past to make recommendations with should and must, but now we are going to avoid these two and we are going to use the subjunctive form of the verb. Okay, so we have to complete the sentences without changing the meaning, it says. Okay, so here we have the first example. Our family should try to cut down on expenses. So here we have the expression that we need to use. I suggested that our family try to cut down on expenses. Okay, so you have to do exactly the same here with the rest of the sentences, and then we are going to check, okay?